Welcome everyone to the training webinar series Eyefinity Encompass All About Maui Jim presentation. Thank you for joining us today. We look forward to your questions throughout the presentation. You can enter them by clicking on the Q&A icon on the top of your screen. My name is Linda Park, and it is my pleasure to be with you today to introduce Tina Sanchez. Tina has more than 10 years of healthcare experience with over 6 years at Eyefinity. She was born and raised in Savannah, Georgia, and enjoys spending time with her family and friends. She is a functional expert in Eyefinity Encompass and holds a master's degree in healthcare administration. In her spare time, Tina loves to read and travel, and she is known for her enthusiasm for helping others. Welcome, Tina.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you everyone for joining. So we're going to go ahead and jump in and talk about Maui Jim. So I'm going to bring my Encompass screen over so everyone should be able to see that I'm logged into my Encompass platform. So the first thing that I want to talk about here is frames. So, we need to make sure if we're selling, Maui Jim, whether they be just Plano, frames, or whether you're going to sell, a Maui Jim frame with an RX lenses, that we need to have our frames activated over in administration. So I'm going to go to administration, and then I'm going to go to my frame section. So the reason why I'm showing this is because, you will have, your frames, like I said, that you will sell Plano, that the person's just picking those frames and they're not getting a prescription. And then you will need your ophthalmic frames as well activated in here. You can't use a non-ophthalmic frame on an order that will have a prescription in it. So I'm going to go to my manufacturer and I will look up Maui Jim. And you can see Maui Jim comes up right here. And then I can go to my collection. Now I'm going to look at a couple of collections here. So you can see my Maui Jim Sun RX. You can see that says RX. So those are the ones that you will use, when you are selling those prescription lenses to your patients. Then you also have like the sunglass collection. Those are the non-prescription frames. So you will want to make sure that both of those frame types are activated. And I'm going to show you the difference in those. So I'm going to go to my Maui Jim Sunglass collection. And it's, of course, searching because I didn't check off. I only want to see my active frames only. But if you don't have your frames active yet, then, you're going to search your inactive list and find those frames that you have in your office. So you can see all these, frames listed that I have here that are not active. If they're not active, if I sell, this particular frame, now this one, if you notice, you see how it says MJRX here versus I have this one that does not have MJRX. So that's where you're seeing those, those differences. If it says MJRX, that's your, for your prescription lenses. If it does not have MJRX, then, you will use those for those, Plano frame that patients are just picking that frame and wanting to just purchase those Maui Jim Plano sunglasses. So, but I'm going to go to my active list here so you can see that I have this little beach and this baby beach activated. Neither one of these say, the MJRX because this is the Maui Jim sunglass collection. This is not the one that has the Maui Jim RX. Now, if I switch over to my Maui Jim Sun RX, and you can see these both say MJRX with that baby beach. So you may have two of the same frames. One will be just that sunglass collection. One will be the ophthalmic one. So you would want both of those activated if you do have that frame and you're going to sell it to patients without a prescription, and if you're going to sell it to a patient with a prescription. So make sure you activate both of those frames and put in your retail price and activate those. You guys can also put your cost here. The wholesale price is already populated from frames data. So, but you can put your cost here if you want to, do that comparison on a report in here of, what your cost is versus, your retail. All right, so that is setting up those frames. And like I said, you just look up any frames that, that you sell that you're like, oh yeah, we, do um there's several sunglass collections here, so you may have to look in each one. But even when you go to them, you can select your model here. So if you're like, yeah, we sell this Beaches 541, I'm going to uncheck this search, and it'll give you a list of any of those that you have in that sun collection. There. Same thing with your Maui Jim sunglass. You come here, put in your model number. You can search by those specific frames that you have in your office. And right now it is searching for the whole inactive list for me before I can select a model number here. But I'm going to go ahead and refresh my screen. All right, so that's setting up the frames, activating them to make sure you have them in the system, before you start creating any orders for your patients in the system. All right, so now we're going to talk about the pricing of the lenses. So everybody knows that, things changed with Maui Jim. It's been a couple months ago now that, things were updated on how orders are put into the system, the things that you have to have priced in here. So we're going to go over all of that today. I'm going to show you how do you price a lens in here, and then what does it look like when I go and do an order, in the system. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my eyeglass lens setup. Now, you guys, you probably have your prices, that usual and customary price that Maui Jim says, here, this is what you should be charging, retail to your patients. So I'm going to go by a list of prices I have today to price out my lenses. But of course, for you guys, it may be a different price in your office. I may have a different number than what Maui Jim UNC is now. So I'm just going to go through and show you what all has to be priced, in order to have a successful order in the system for Maui Jim. So Maui Jim lenses are made up of 7 attributes. All 7 attributes have to have a price in them. There is no attribute of Maui Jim that can be 0. So we have to have a price in our base. We have to have a price in our material add-on, our Maui Jim style, our color coat, which that's going to include our polarization. Our coding area, we have to have a price in our Maui Jim AR and our backside UV. Then we also have to have a tint in here priced. That tint, we have it named in here MJ Maui Gradient Tint. So if you have that activated, that's always the best option to use since it has that MJ on it and it's called Maui Gradient Tint. You also, it's the same as the gray 3 gradient. So you can use either one interchangeably. But like I said, we named that one specific. So okay, that's what I should be selecting on that Maui Jim order. Also, you have to have a mirror, priced in here. And our mirror coats are now called MJ by gradient or solid mirror. I'm going to show you guys where that pricing is done in here, if you're not aware where that is done. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into here and go through those 7 attributes. Now, myself, when I am teaching pricing lenses, I always like to jot down my numbers because I'm not going to remember 7 different numbers in my head and keep that all in my head. So what I normally do is say, okay, well, let's start looking at the pricing of everything. So we're going to always start with our base. So there's 2 base lenses that you will be looking at with Maui Jim. It's going to be your single vision and your progressive. So I would jot down my $45, jot down my $64.50. That's my base I'm building on top of. Then I'm going to go to my material add-on. 3 materials we're looking at here. We're looking at the poly, and that's, with our poly Maui Jim lenses. We're looking at evolution. I mean, not evolution, sorry. We're looking at 160. That goes with evolution. And then we're also looking at Trivex. That goes with your Maui Brilliant lenses. So we would jot down those 3 prices. So my poly's 40. My, let's see, high index plastic is 45. the 160, and you always want to make sure you have the high index plastic 160, not the mid index. We are always looking at high index. And then my Trivex is 50 here. So I jot down, those prices. All right, and then next, normally we would go to the style add-on. Always advise to leave that style add-on for last. We'll price every other attribute, get those established, and whatever's left over will go into the style add-on. That is always the easiest way to price these. Because especially your lens base, your material add-on, that affects other lenses. Um, so, backside UV affects other lenses as well. So we can always adjust that style add-on. So I always say skip the style add-on, come to that last. All right, so we're going to jump to our color code add-on. So this is where I'm looking for all my Maui, colors, and that's your polarization. So I can do one of two things here. I can reverse the order of this, start looking for my Maui Jim here. So you can see all these Maui options. I can also go up here and say, let me go to Polaroid. And so you can see all my Maui Jim options are here under the polarized. So you can, filter either way. Or just look at the whole list, but you can see it just brings up my polarized options when I filter by the item group of Polaroid. Now, I do want to point out a couple of things here. Hawaii Sea Shine, Hawaii Glow. Those are also new lenses that Maui Jim came out with when the new update happened. So keep those in mind here. I am going to walk through an order using those, but that is your polarization. It's just, new ones that Maui Jim came up with, the Hawaii Glow and the Hawaii Sea Shine. So, like I said, we'll talk about an order with those because that order with those does work a little bit different than the other ones here. So we have our solids, we have our bi gradients, we have our Maui gradients here, and you can see I have a price of $50 on mine. Now, look, my Hawaii Glow and Hawaii Sea Shine are not priced, so I definitely want to go in here and plug in that price. I'm going to make all these polarized the same with my pricing, and then I'm going to save it. All right, so I have all my Maui, priced in here. Now, if I'm like, wait, it looks like I'm missing something. Remember, you can go and uncheck the active box here, click on search. Now you're searching the whole list here of anything that's polarized, and you can see these are in alphabetical order. There's no Maui Jim listed here, so I have all of my Maui Jim already activated and priced. So I can just recheck and go back to here. All right, so that is the third attribute that we have looked at so far. All right, so next let's go down to our tint. The tint attribute I'm about to show you is an important for any of your Maui gradient polarized lenses. You will need this tint to be in here. Like I said, it's the MJ Maui Gradient Tint, or you also can use the Gray 3 Gradient as well. But like I said, we have this tint here specifically named MJ for Maui Jim and Maui Gradient Tint. And it has the word Maui Gradient Tint, so then that makes you know that, okay, this tint goes with any Maui Gradient polarized lenses. So that's one of the things that has to be activated here. I will jot down that price. I have it at 35 for that tint. Okay. And like I said, your prices can be different. It's just what I have in here, right? So then next we're going to go down to our coding section. When we get to coding, there's two things that we're looking at here. We are looking at our backside UV. You can see that that's priced at 10. And then we're also looking for our Maui Jim AR. Now, if you wanted to scroll through this list and say, let me find Maui Jim AR, because you can see I have a ton of things active here. Or you can say, no, let me just expand this out, and then I can just scroll down. There's my Maui Jim AR 40. Now, if I wanted to go up to the top and say, well, don't want to have to do all that. I don't want to have to scroll down that entire list. I can type in Maui up here in the company item name and just search for Maui. There's my Maui Jim AR. So you can see my Maui Jim AR is priced at 40 per lens. Okay, so far we've looked at the base, the material, the color coat, which included the polarization, polarized lens. We've looked at our tint. We've looked at our Maui Jim AR and our backside UV. Now, next, we're going to look at our mirror coat. What are you going to use in here for your mirror coats when any of your lenses, need that mirror coat? So we're going to go to our miscellaneous extras. So this is really important. So you can see right here, I have two mirror coat options listed here. MJ by gradient or solid mirror, and I have MJ solid or gold mirror. You will want both of these activated and priced, and I have them priced at $35, for my example. So, because either a lens is going to have that tint charge, that Maui Jim tint we saw, which will go with your Maui gradient lenses, or your bi gradient is going to have this mirror coat, and your Hawaii Sea Shine and your Hawaii Glow is going to have this MJ Silver or Gold mirror. So that MJ Silver or Gold mirror will go with that Hawaii Sea Shine or Hawaii Glow. MJ bi gradient or solid mirror is going to go with any of your bi gradient or solid, polarized lenses. So make sure both of those are active in here because that is definitely included in the pricing of your Maui Jim lenses, and we'll put in that pricing for that mirror coat. All right, so now I've jotted down all these numbers. So now, how do we think about what do we put into the style add-on? I said leave that style add-on for last. So what I would do here is just take all the 6 attributes I just priced and see what I have. So I'm just going to take my calculator and I'm just going to price out a single vision poly. So let's say my usual and customary for my single vision poly was $475 for the pair of lenses. So remember, everything in here is per lens. So that $475 is going to be broken down by the 2 lenses. So I'm going to take and add up my 6 attributes so far. So I'm going to take the 45 for my single vision. My poly was 40. And then I'm going to take my polarization was 50. My backside was 10. My Maui Jim AR was 40. And whether it be either the tint that's being added or the mirror coat, both of those were priced at 35. So I'm going to add 35. So for my 6 attributes, I have it priced at 220 so far. So 220 times 2 is 440, but I want to be at 475, right? So if I take that 440 and take the 475 minus the 440, then that leaves me $35 that I can go and put into my style add-on. That's why I said always just establish these prices and then you do your adjustments in the style add-on. What you have left over should go there. So, but remember that $35 is going to be divided by 2 because it's per lens. So that would mean my style add-on for my Maui Jim single vision poly is going to be $17.50. So I'm going to go back to my style add-on. And always think best thing here is to search by Maui and the company item name, especially if you're selling a bunch of different styles of lenses. Your list could be pretty long because you can see how long mine is. I have 75 lenses here. Now I can see my Maui Jims all right here, listed here, but I always like to go up to the top and search here so I can just filter out by my Maui Jim. All right, so we were talking about our Maui Jim Digital Poly Single Vision. And yep, so single vision. So I want to put 1750 here because that's what I determined was left over for me to get to that 475. So I'm going to save here. All right, so that's how the pricing is done. Now, how do I know my pricing is correct? Do I have to go do an order to figure out if my pricing is correct? No, we don't have to go do an order. Remember, once you price in standard setup, we also need to go to quick setup because we then need to activate those lenses. Because remember, that's the only way that we will be able to sell those lenses to a patient if they're activated here in quick setup. So I'm going to go to my single vision. I'm going to go to my poly, and then I'm going to type in the word Maui because this is a very long list. Here's my Maui Jim Digital Poly Single Vision. So we're not going to use this one. We should be using the digital one here. So I'm going to do Digital Poly Single Vision, and I'm going to search. Now you see, if everybody on here is familiar with the quick setup, if nothing comes up, that means that is not activated. Even though we've priced it in standard setup, quick setup, if there's nothing coming up here, if we were to go and try to sell this Maui Jim Digital Poly Single Vision to a patient, we would not be able to sell it at this moment because it is not activated in quick setup. So I'm going to uncheck active and I'm going to search. And then you can see the options I have here for the Maui Jim Digital Poly Single Vision. Now I'm going to activate these, and I'm going to just activate everything. Now, the only thing I'm not going to activate is this clear option because you're not selling these lenses in clear to your patients any longer. It is still here in the list, but you will not want to activate the one that says clear. So I'm going to leave that one as is, and I'm going to save. Now, one little tidbit of information here, and you may be like, well, how do I know I sell all of these? Now you see your receipt description here kind of cuts off that receipt description. So if I want to open this up and say, okay, what exactly is this lens? And we can see it says HCL here. Let's say this one says MHT. You may be like, what is that? And you can see it says Maui HT here, so that's what that is. But if I want to open this up, I click on the little arrow and it'll tell me, what this lens is. I could say, okay, yeah, we do the Maui HT. I would want to activate that. And you may just want to activate all your Maui Jims, except for the clear, just in case the patient picks, something in particular. Maybe you not ever sold it, but this patient comes in and says, hey, I've been reading about this Maui HT. I would like, those lenses. So, you already have it activated in the system. So you don't have to come back to administration and, do any more activation of those Maui lenses. All right, so now let's talk about the price that we see here. Maybe like, well, wait a minute, 192.50 times 2, that's not 475, right? So 192.50 times 2 is only 385. So we are missing $90 somewhere. So let me take you back to this description we were just looking at here. So you can see this includes the single vision base price. It includes our material. It includes this style add-on. It includes our polarized pricing here. It also includes the Maui Jim AR. We don't see anywhere in this description where it says anything about the mirror tint, doesn't say anything about the backside UV. So that is really important to know here. When you're looking at your pricing in Quick Setup, it is going to exclude those two things. It's going to exclude the backside UV pricing and the pricing of your tint or mirror, whichever one gets added to that lens. So my price was $10 for the backside UV and $35 for my tint or mirror. So if I take $45 and add it to my $192.50 plus 45 is 237.50 times 2, I'm getting my 475. So always keep that in mind when you're activating in Quick Setup, that it will exclude backside UV and your tint pricing or mirror coat pricing. So it will add on to their order. It just does not show here because those are considered what we call lens treatments. So it's not adding those here in the Quick Setup area. So, so it's not like your price is wrong. Your price is right as long as you add that extra couple of things on and it comes up to your total retail you want, then you're, then correct here. You don't have to go back into standard setup and change any pricing. Now, what if I got here and my pricing was too low, even after I, added on that backside UV, added on that mirror tint pricing? always recommend if you need to change or adjust any of the pricing at that point, go back into standard setup, go to your style add-on. That's always the best place to go and make those adjustments. So then you're not going and changing other things and it affects every lens in your office. So always say go to that style add-on and make adjustments there because you may price your lenses today and 6 months from now Maui Jim may be like, okay, our prices are going up. So you want to adjust your prices as well. So just go back to that style add-on and, make that adjustment. All right, so that's the pricing of, a single vision lens. Now, I'm going to just price one more lens to go through, just go through that process again. Now, let's think about, well, what if we wanted to price our evolution in the progressive. Remember, evolution is going to be in 160. Now, I've jotted down, my numbers already. I know that my progressive base was 64.50. I know my 160 was $45 because I jotted down all those prices so I can, price everything and not have to keep going back and forth into the different sections. I know my polarization's 50, my backside UV is 10, my Maui Jim AR is 40, and my tint and mirror is 35. So those things are already established. So what I'm going to do now is add things back up again. So I'm going to take my progressive 6450 plus my 160 was 45. My polarization's 50, backside is 10, Maui Jim AR is 40, and my mirror or tint is 35. So that brings me to 244.50 times 2, that's 489. Now, I want my evolution and progressive to be 675 for the pair of lenses. So I'm going to take that 489, which is the base so far of all the attributes except for the style add-on. I'm going to minus out the 675 to see what the difference is. That's $186. I'm going to divide it by 2, and that makes 93. And let's see if I calculated that right. And sometimes I'm second guessing myself on this pricing, and you can recalculate again, and that's what I'm going to do just to make sure I got it all correct. But even if I go, let's do this. I'm going to do this. Let's go to style add-on. Because remember, I said when you go to quick setup and you realize that you put the price in here incorrectly, I can just go and fix it, even if I calculated incorrectly. So I'm going to go to my Maui Jim Evolution PAL here. So I'm going to put $90 here per lens, okay? And I don't think that's right. So nope, let's put 35 here. Let's say I calculated and it was 35. So I'm going to put 35 there and I'm going to save it. Okay. And then I'm going to go to quick setup. I'm going to refresh my screen to reset my filters. I'm going to go to progressive. And then I'm going to go to 160 high index. Remember not to select your mid index because mid index is on here as well. If you do select mid index plastic and you go to the style drop down, you will not find Maui there. So you'll know that something is selected incorrectly. And then I'm going to go here to my digital evolution. And I'm going to uncheck my active box because I don't have anything active yet. And then we're going to activate. Normally I say activate everything, but you're clear. And I can see this one says clear here. So I'm just going to go down and activate these. Okay, and I'm going to save. Now let's talk about the pricing of this. $234.50. And remember, I'm adding on $45 because my 35 for my mirror, my 10 for my backside is not included. Or 45, yep. So that makes my lens $279.50 per lens times 2 is $559. So yeah, that's definitely not right? Because if I want this to be $675, right now I'm at $559. So I am way off. So I am off by $116 divided by 2. So that's 58. So if I get here and say, yep, my price is not, correct, I need to go up the price, even if you have to lower the price, I would just go back to style add-on, our standard setup and style add-on, and go back to my Maui lens. And right now I put it at 35, but it needs to be $58 higher than that. So I'm going to do 58 plus 35. That is $93 that will go there. And I'm going to save it. Now let's go back over to quick setup and take a look. $292.50. So $292.50 plus my $10 backside UV plus my 35 mirror, so 45 is $337.50 times 2 is $675. So my lens pricing is accurate to what I want it to be, what that usual and customary is from Maui Jim. All right, so that is the pricing of the lenses. Now I'm going to jump into showing you a couple of orders in here. So I'm going to click on my Encompass logo and I'm going to go search for my patient. Okay, I'll go here. And let me check something real quick before we do this, and this may not work, so just checking. Nope, okay. All right, so let's say we want to do an eyeglass order, for a patient from Maui Jim. So now, of course, if we had insurance, we would make sure our insurance is in there, our eligibility. If you're doing a VSP job, make sure you've pulled that authorization from VSP. Now, for my example, I'm going to do manual lab submission because I don't want this order to go anywhere. So I'm going to do a complete eyeglass order, choose my prescription. I'm going to add my frame. Now, of course, this is an RX order. So we need that RX frame, right? So you can see here that we have 2 frames because we have both, the ophthalmic frame and, the plano frame activated here. So now the temples, of course, are a little bit different, but you can see this one says MJRX versus this one does not. So make sure you're choosing the one with the MJRX since we're doing a order with prescription lenses. Okay, so we're going to select that. And as my frame, I'm going to choose my source. I'm just going to do this for my example. And most of the time that is lab supplied for your Maui Jim. I'm going to add my lenses. Okay, so I'm going to go and I have a progressive prescription. I'm going to choose let's look at poly. And then we'll look at our style. And why do I not have, oh, wait, because I didn't do poly. So do you guys notice? I don't have a style here. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I didn't activate anything in progressive polycarbonate. That's why I'm not seeing that style here. Remember, I only priced the 160 in the progressive. So I'm going to select my high index 160. So keep that in mind. If you get here and you're like, wait a minute, I don't see what I need to select for that patient, you need to go back into administration and activate those. So then it will come up on your list here. So I'm going to do Maui Jim Digital Evolution PAL. And then we're going to go here and select, our polarized. So whether it by gradient, a Maui gradient, whatever it is that the patient has selected. So I'm going to start with a by gradient here. Now you're going to see something that happens when you select by gradient. There's a couple of things will happen. When you select Maui Jim by gradient, or if you select like one that says solid here as well, then it's going to automatically do a couple things. It's going to add on your backside UV. It's going to add on your Maui Jim AR, and it is also going to add on that MJ by gradient or solid mirror. It is going to add on everything for you that you need on this order. You do not have to manually select anything here once we choose this color here, this polarized. So I'm going to choose the by gradient. And this will happen really quickly. And I don't know if you guys noticed that two boxes actually popped up. The one is behind this other one, and I can't move this one. So the first one that came up was saying that we're adding the MJ by gradient or solid mirror price. It's going to add that automatically. And then it tells us, okay, we're also adding the backside UV. So I'm going to click on OK here, and it's right there. So it goes away. So you can see I clicked on OK with the backside, and then we have this one here. So it says MJ by gradient or solid mirror will be automatically added to the lab order to ensure that the order, insurance claim, and patient amount are correct. So it's nice that the system is doing this, adding all of this for you so you don't forget to add these things. So I'm going to click on OK here. You can see my Maui Jim AR here. You can see my backside UV down here. Now you guys are not going to see anywhere on this screen that Maui Jim by gradient or solid mirror is on here. I'm going to show you when we add these lenses that we'll be able to see it within the pricing section. So I'm just going to add this in, and then I'm going to add to order. So let's look at our pricing over here. There it is. There's our MJ by gradient or solid mirror there. So it has everything listed. It has our frame, our base, our material, our style, our polarization, our Maui Jim AR, backside UV, and our mirror coat. So all of those 7 things that we need to be added to a Maui Jim order. And another place that you can see this besides the pricing screen here, the estimated charges, is right here, the extras added. So you can see how this turned green. And if I click on it, you can see right there, the MJ by gradient or solid mirror is underneath your extras, because that's where we activated and priced it within the eyeglass lens setup area. It was under the miscellaneous extras. And you can see there's my MJ silver or gold mirror that will be for, the Hawaii Sea Shine or the Hawaii Glow. So it automatically adds it for you. And I mean, it's really cool that you don't have to make sure that you're adding those things on this order. All right, so that's how that works. And you can see we're coming up to $950.95 because our frame is $275.95. So when you add those lens pricing and the frame together, I mean, the price that we have here is the $675 plus the $275.95. And that's where we're getting the $950.95. All right, so I'm going to cancel out of this one. And I'm just going to use my same patient and do another order with a different lens. Okay, and I'm just going to do lenses only. Now, I'd probably be adding a frame here, but I just want to show you, how it works with these lenses in the system when the change happened. So I'm just going to do this single vision prescription. And I'm going to do single vision. I'm going to do polycarbonate. And I'm going to choose my Maui Jim Digital Poly Single Vision. And let's see. And of course, I can't do this one because, let me see, I don't think I have anything activated. Oh, didn't mean to do that. All right, let me do something really quickly. Let me go back to administration because I need a couple more lenses activated. Sorry, I should have activated them while I was over there, but let me go over here and just activate a single vision in Trivex. And let's see. I don't know, I didn't price these, but I'll go in there. All right, I'm just going to activate those, and I'm just going to put something in here because I had not priced my style yet. So I'm just going to plug a price in there just so it's activated. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and check these off. And remember, I want to activate anything that I'm selling to my patients except for the clear. All right, so I'm going to save that one. All right, let me go back to my patient because I have a Trivex one now. And let's go back here. Eyeglass Order. And let's do this one more time. And let me go to my Trivex. Then we see our brilliant here. All right, so now with this in Trivex, we see the Hawaii Glow, Hawaii Sea Shine. We can see our solids here. We have our Maui Gradient, so we have more options within, these parameters. So I'm going to do a Maui Gradient this time. Right, so Maui Gradient, when I select that, there's only one thing that happens here. It says you have selected an AR coating that has an additional attribute of backside UV, so it's going to automatically add on the backside UV. The only thing that it does not do is when you do any Maui Gradient, it will not add on that tint charge. That MJ Maui Gradient Tint, you will have to manually add that. Always keep that in mind. And the reason why I'm saying that, if you guys are, seeing VSP patients and you go and create that order, it is once you get to the calculation window, if you forget to add the tint, it's going to tell you that you forgot to add it and you will have to go back and add it because your order will fail if you don't. So always keep that in mind. If you are selling, Maui Gradient, you have to go and add the tint. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to go down to my tint type because with this one, it only added the Maui Jim AR, it added the backside UV, but it will not add the tint. So I'm going to go to my gradient tint, and then I'm going to look here, and there's my MJ Maui gradient tint. So I need to add that to this order, and then click on add to order. And then when we look at our prices, we would get that correct price here. And mine showing at 510 for these lenses. For the pair of lenses in here, that pricing may not be accurate because I just went in there and just threw a price in there, but you would want to make sure, that your prices are accurate over in administration. So when anybody creates the order, it comes up with that, correct price there. But you can see our tint there that I had to add on manually. So always like to point this one out because I know, kind of hard sometimes to remember this, but with Maui Gradient, you do have to remember to add that tint. All right, so I'm going to cancel out of this and I'm going to do one more order because I want to talk about the Maui Sea Shine and the Maui Glow. So I'm going to go back into here, just do my single vision Trivex again, just to show you the example of. Okay, so if I do the Hawaii Glow or the Hawaii Sea Shine, either one of those, the system's going to automatically add on everything for you as well, just like the by gradient lenses do. So I'm going to click on Hawaii Glow. So it added on my backside UV. If I click on OK here, you can also see it added on my MJ silver or gold mirror. So it is automatically adding all of that on for you. You will not have to add anything on here manually. So everything's added. I would just put in my PDs, add to order, and then we would look at our pricing and, it's coming up as 510. There's our MJ silver gold mirror, our Hawaii glows there, AR, backside UV, our style, our base, and our material. So that's how, the orders work in the system. When it comes to, the changes that happen with Maui Jim. And it, like I said, it's really nice that, for the Hawaii Sea Shine and Glow, for your by gradient, it does all the work for you. For your Maui gradient, you just have to make sure you add, that tint charge. All right, well, that is all that I have to present. So Linda, any questions?
Yes, we have one question. Uh, do the lens attributes treatments list automatically before we set the pricing? And does that occur before or after going live with Eyefinity Encompass?
Okay, so I may have misheard what it said. Is it being asked if the attributes are already all activated? Is,
Yeah, does it list automatically before we set the pricing? Or does it occur before or after going live?
So usually, so when you guys get your training environment, there are usually some Maui Jim lenses that are already activated in there. Um, It's not going to be all of them. If that's what the question is, you will have to make sure that you're going into those different attributes and making sure, that things are all activated and priced before you start, jumping into quick setup. Because I know normally probably in the miscellaneous extras, you may not see those two MJ items, for the mirror coats activated. In the tint, you may have to activate that MJ tint. Make sure, all of your polarized lenses are activated. I think normally we try to have most of them activated, but you may see a time where all of them in the color code add-on, are not activated. Now, of course, lens base, materials, they'll all be there. You probably will have to check your styles, to make sure, any Maui Jim, if you sell the Evolution, Brilliant, and Poly, to make sure all of those are active. Because I don't believe they all are active, when you get your training environment, so they won't be active in your live unless you've activated them. And hopefully
Okay.
that answered the question, but any other questions?
Nope, no other questions. We only had one asking if a recording will be available, and yes, it will.
All right.
But
Well, that is the end of my presentation. Thank you for whoever asked the question. That was a great question.
perfect, thank you. And then if you could just put it back, yes, perfect. So if you are looking for more training, you can check out our other learning options, such as documentation, tutorials, and walkthroughs, role-based training, additional training webinars, one-on-one virtual training, and on-site training or consultations. You can learn more at eyefinity.com/education. And with that, I would like to thank you, Tina, for your time and for the valuable information you shared with us. And thank you to everyone on the line for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today. This concludes our presentation.